Retired four-star naval officer Admiral James Stavridis now, former Supreme Allied Commander of NATO, senior NBC News international security and diplomacy contributor. Admiral, thanks as always. Thousands of U.S. troops now on heightened alert to assist in the defense of NATO allies, at least potentially. Practically speaking, what does this help?
Well, this is CNBC, so let's kind of do the numbers. We already have 50,000 U.S. troops forward stationed in Europe. Our NATO allies have several 100,000 troops all along their borders. So 8,000 troops from the United States is not an enormous response. But here's the point, Shep. These 8,000 troops are a symbolic presence. They're coming from the U.S. to Europe. Number two, they come with specific skill sets in cyber, communications, intelligence, special operations. They create real leverage with the already significant NATO and U.S. forces that are there. And thirdly, they are a signal to Vladimir Putin that the United States will remain engaged in Europe. I think it's a pretty significant step. We haven't pulled the trigger and deployed them yet, but I think it's the right move by the Biden administration to put them on alert.
So, Admiral, a signal, but a force deterrent, or is that a line or a situation that's already passed?
Yeah, great question. I think it's a bit of both. And no, I don't think that moment has passed. When you couple it, Shep, as you know, with these significant economic sanctions that are being bruited, that have been clearly communicated, when you couple it with NATO troops moving toward the borders from Western Europe, and above all, the fairly unified responses from the allies. As your report pointed out, you know, there's a few discrepancies here and there, but by and large, NATO is standing together on this. Those three things together, let's hope, will have a deterrent effect on Vladimir Putin.
We've talked, you and I, for decades about these sorts of back and forth maneuvers and how what you really worry about is some sort of mistake where things get out of control or out of hand. What's the point where that's all we can do?
I think we're getting pretty close to that. And if Putin really rolls his tanks across that border, that's when the moment of potential miscalculation occurs. Frankly, Shep, it could be in cyber. It could be a Russian offensive cyber attack that elicits a U.S. cyber response. Those can be very significant actions. That's where this kind of shadow world could erupt into a very significant conflict. So you're right. We ought to be worried not only about the physical and the strategic effect here, but the potential for a miscalculation at the end.
One last thing before we go. Everybody knows there's a pipeline from Russia into Germany. How in the world are Europeans and the West, for that matter, going to unite when he could cut the energy off?
Hey, here's the good news. You're right to raise this. But so far, that pipeline has not been energized. Nothing is flowing through it. And so it becomes kind of leverage going both ways, frankly. And I will tell you this, if those tanks roll into Ukraine, Shep, Nord Stream 2, that pipeline, there'll be nothing but air whistling through that pipe. That's going to be pretty hard on Vladimir Putin and his natural gas sales. Europe will be able over time to compensate and make up that energy. I'm not sure Putin can make up those markets. That one cuts both ways.
I hear you. Admiral James Stavridis, thank you. Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.